Shitbird, failed PT test 2 weeks in. Love to know the fucking percentage of dropouts that are in that group. I bet you it's higher than the rest. What's next? I can't have them stand in line in the chow hall and fucking scoot to hurry up that fucking process. Oh, because we gotta give them a half an hour to digest because their little tummy tum-tums might get a little upset, huh? Huh, Sergeant Major? Woo! The shift follows substantial. If you had a tracker in every single one of those fucking trainees that got shat out of that fucking company and then pushed out into the fucking military, those little trackers would be like beep, 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 kicked out of the army, shitbird, failed PT test 2 weeks in, love to know the fucking percentage of dropouts that are in that group. I bet you it's higher than the rest. What's next? I can't have them stand in line in the chow hall and fucking scoot to hurry up that fucking process. Oh, because we gotta give them a half an hour to digest because their little tummy tum-tums might get a little upset, huh? Huh, Sergeant Major? Woo! The shift follows substantial changes in the Army's physical training. While recruits may have to endure less screaming at boot camp, the new training has effectively made the fitness and marksmanship requirements for recruits more demanding. More demanding, they say! What happened to the leg tuck? If it's so demanding, why'd we get rid of the leg tuck? Bunch of pansies couldn't even touch their knees to their elbows? Sounds like more of changing the standard because they can't pass it instead of keeping the standard the same and just getting a new crop of Joes that can actually meet it. The loud and brutal drill sergeant was seen as a way to toughen up fresh recruits and prepare them for the harsh realities of war. From the jungles of Vietnam to the post-9/11 battlefields of Afghanistan and Iraq. But that thinking is changing, and many in the service believe a less harsh approach may actually be more effective with recruits.
That is crazy. That is crazy.
This is precisely the backwards thinking that is going to get our troops killed. Plain and simple.
Mm-hmm.
We need that harsh training, like he said.
Yes. You know how much a softie in the field.
Yeah. If it wasn't for that harsh training that I received during basic training, I wouldn't have made it through what I did.
Of course.
Like, that mentally prepared me for the things I saw and witnessed and had to go through. So, you know what? Everything they're saying in this article is complete and utter crap. Point blank. That's all there is to it. I don't know where they're getting this from.
How did they come to the conclusion to make this change? Question, because it's just not true. It's just so not true.
This is what happens when you give an entire generation of kids participation trophies.
That's the problem. Especially when you know that they did not perform. That's just crazy to me. You didn't do good. Better luck next time. Doing that.
Exactly. You know,
children,
they don't know how to lose.
We're creating little. They have to accept being out of light.
Yeah, that's what Megan said.
Something bad. When something bad happens, they're gonna be able to deal with the stress. They're not used to hardship. That's not good.
No, it does nobody any good. They're going to crack under the first gunshot that goes over their head. I mean, you hear a bullet whiz over your head for the first time. That's really unnerving.
It's not funny.
Or you see, or you see literally see a bullet. It's almost. I remember driving in a convoy, and a bullet hit the windshield of the vehicle I was driving, and it was almost like in slow motion. Like I saw the deformation of the bullet into the windshield.
Wow.
And if the windshield wasn't made of what it was made of, I wouldn't be here talking to you today.
That's crazy.
But on the other hand, if it wasn't for my training, I wouldn't have been able to continue driving and make it through that. I would have just freaked out and probably driven off the road or something.
Yeah.
Morning. Hey, Andrea. How you doing? Oh, they're not just dumbing it down. They're turning them into a bunch of sissy pansies. Drill sergeants aren't allowed to be yelling at the recruits no more. So you yelling at your kids is worse than what the military's. Yeah, exactly, Megan. Like old school veterans. Yeah, right. Like old school veterans like Megan and I are going to be more prepared in the end times than most citizens or even, modern veterans. Because they're not going to know how to handle themselves.
That's crazy. We're in trouble, Vader.
Yes, we are. Back to it.
Many believe, quantify many for me. Huh? And for those of you that don't know what quantify means, that means give me a fucking number of exactly the many people that are saying this. What is it? What, 10? 10 field grade officers? I bet you didn't go to Fort Benning or Fort Leonard Wood and talk to a bunch of infantry or engineer drill sergeants. I bet you didn't go to any active component infantry units, engineer units, any combat arms from Fort Sill, artillerymen, etc. and ask those active duty fucking units. I bet if you asked them, should the drill sergeant stop screaming, you'd be laughed out of their fucking headquarters.
FYI, Fort Leonard Wood is where I did my second round of basic training. I just want to give a shout out to Fort Leonard Wood here because, he mentioned it in the video.
Okay.
The naysayers who we were initially fighting against didn't believe this new way of doing things. Say it ain't so. Beeson said, gentler isn't the right way to say it. It's just dignity and respect. People desire structure, and we're trying to give it to them. We're just not being assholes when we're doing it. They haven't earned anything yet! They haven't done anything! They haven't even learned the Army values that had respect in it! Have you ever read the Army training manual regarding trainees and how we're supposed to treat them? AR-350-6? I bet you haven't. Because that fucking TRADOC manual ties our gosh dang hands behind our backs enough already that now we can't even scream at them. Oh God, heaven forbid we scream at them. I might just lose my fucking rank. You know what it sounds like to me? It sounds like you should train them. It sounds like you're reaping all the benefits of me busting my fucking hump to send you quality soldiers, and you're like, well, if these quality guys don't want to be yelled at anymore, I think I should listen to them, and I'll tell the drill sergeants to stop yelling at them. You're sitting in a good position because the blood, sweat, and tears I'm fucking dripping out here, training dummies to be like, yes sir, roger that, Sergeant Major Parade, breath salute, and now you're like, well, let's fuck that up. Let's fuck that all up. This generation is very intuitive, Major General John Klein, commander of CIMT, said in an interview with military.com. I think they can see whether somebody is authentic or not. So if drill sergeants are putting on some sort of facade, they'll see right through it. Facade? Do you think that we get respect just because we fucking scream at people? Are you high? Are you freaking high? We get respect! And they listen to us because every day we wake up and show them the amount of knowledge and professionalism we have while executing our military tasks to perfection. action. In 2020, the Army got rid of the so-called shark attack. So-called. Every fucking troop from Vietnam until now knows exactly what a shark attack is. So don't you dare play it off as some sort of flimsy afterthought hazing thing that some people might have seen or done. You better put some respect on that. Staff Sergeant Chris Osborne, a drill sergeant at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, was named U.S. Army's 2022 Drill Sergeant of the Year. Osborne said she was initially too aggressive with recruits and quickly found out they were turned off by the approach.
Okay.
See, that's the problem.
So
That's the problem. It's crazy.
to give you a quick rundown of what a shark attack is.
Mhm.
Recruits, when they first get there, they get into processing. They go through processing where they are issued their uniforms, they go through their physicals, any dental records, all that stuff, and their shots and their haircut and all that good stuff. Once that's done, then they get shipped to their first basic training unit. Once they get to their basic training unit and they get off the bus, that's when everything breaks loose. If you know what I mean. Because you got a drill sergeant on the bus yelling at you to get your butt off the bus, get your stuff, get off the bus. Then you got a drill sergeant at the door of the bus yelling at you to get moving into the field. Then you got drill sergeants in the field yelling at you, telling you what to do while you're in the field. This is the shark attack.
Well, this should. No, this is. What's wrong with that?
And they want you to do all this stuff very quick, very fast, and precisely. And they're constantly yelling at you to get you to do it. And the thing is, you got to remember, these are mostly kids from like high school age that have never had this kind of discipline in their life. So this is their first shot or their first time experiencing any kind of structured discipline in their life. So, I mean, this is a huge moment for them.
Yeah, I think if they can handle some yelling, the war.
Exactly.
Simple as that. Yeah, it's very sad.
So, I mean, when I was in, we one person in our company would screw up and they would smoke us all night in CBD gear, where we'd be running back and forth doing flippies and CBD gear. Now, CBD gear is chemical biological gear, where it's you have the outer lining, the inner lining, and in between the two is filled with charcoal. It actually, just the gear itself raises your body temperature by 10 degrees. Plus you have your gas mask. And you're just going constantly doing these barrel rolls across this field. And I'll tell you what, that is one of the most exhausting things I've ever had to do. But you know what? I did it. I did it without question. Because that's what had to be done. That was what's required of me. And I didn't question it. We eventually caught up with the private that screwed up and, dealt with him, squared him away. But that's another story for another time. But as you're going along through this, you're in this thing that just putting it on raises your body temperature 10 degrees. Now you're exercising in it. That just increases your body temperature. You're sweating to death. All you want to do is just drink water. You know, I mean, it's like pure torment. It's pure torture. But that's what it feels like. But I'll tell you what, you've never had a better night's sleep after that.
It serves a purpose, yeah. Yeah. Megan said she was not allowed hours. Let me read. It said when I got there, yelled fuss, haircut, uniforms ish on for the first 48 hours. That is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that sounds very. That's what I see in the movies.
Yeah, it's pretty standard. You know, so that's just to give you a basic simplification overview of what the shark attack is. Where, you know, they have you basically go through, check all your gear, make sure you have everything you're supposed to, stuff it all back in the bag in a proper order, and then hold it over your head and make you do push-ups or burpees or whatever the case may be. Different drill sergeants do different things. And basically it's to physically and mentally prepare you for what you're about to experience.
That's right. That just simply makes sense. I don't see anything wrong.
But
even in life itself,
a couple of years
type of trainings.
I don't know if it was last year or a couple years ago, they did away with it. They said that was no longer allowed to be a thing. So, yeah, it's, and he has a whole video on that as well. But in the meantime, back to the video.
That one doing.
The aggression, screaming, yelling, the excessive physical punishments, they're not receptive to that at all, Osborne told military.com. Not receptive to that at all? There is a Army value called integrity, drill sergeant, and I think you just shit all over that one. I myself have been brutal when called for to some of these trainees, but it wasn't my choice. They chose that. They didn't want to be smart. They wanted to be strong. They didn't want to be on time. They wanted to be late. They chose their path to success and or failure, and there I was to maintain the standard as you were. And if you're relying too much on yelling, then I don't know how the fuck you became Drill Sergeant of the Year. If you are not using every moment of physical corrective action to then educate those trainees, then you are slipping, Drill Sergeant, because every time that there's corrective action, there is education with it.
Proper thing to do when a drill sergeant freaking talking to you. You understand, brother?
In that correction, we create discipline and we create education. Discipline, education, two sides of the same coin, Drill. I was a lot harsher my first couple of cycles because that's all I knew, and I finally realized that wasn't working. These trainees are not listening to me. They're not getting better, Osborne said. If they're not doing what I want them to do, that's when I had to tone it down. Tone it down and not yelling all together at trainees are two separate things. And guess what, Drill? I'm sure that you had a kill hat like me that is over there sweating in the corner, ready to destroy some souls when those trainees don't listen to you. Oh, you're the quiet drill sergeant. You're the teacher now. You're thonging and swinging all along with peaceful generosity until you need me. And then there I am to be the bad guy. So don't act like you're all alone in this and that nobody was screaming at troops when you had the bad guy just waiting to get leashed like a pit bull on a fucking collar, just chucking, waiting to fucking pounce. Now I'm sure you're sitting there and saying, but hey, Drill, is this a big deal? Yes! It is my duty to stand at the gates of basic training and defend them from useless training, bullshit doctrine, useless feelings, articles, and changes, corrupting and weakening the necessary difficulties of our training. And let me finish with this. My guys, I and those that I trained didn't fail in Afghanistan. Those with stars on their collars and in between their chevrons and rockers did. They failed. They let it happen. Not the troops that I trained that stacked tens of thousands of enemy personnel, bodies as high as the fucking sky. Not the ones saving, training Afghanis left and right, as well as their fellow soldiers and those that laid down beside them from other countries. Those troops that we trained didn't fail, so don't ask us to change. Still here to the end, huh? You might want to think about subscribing or hitting the like button. Let everybody know that you liked the video. And if you want to support the channel, check out angry-cops.com where you can get a shirt or some cool stickers. Support the channel. Or go to my Patreon. Giving daily uploads to let you know what's going on here. What I'm thinking in my big old beautiful brain. Alright. See you next time, weirdos. Sounds like you love breakfast, but you don't want to figure out how the sausage is made. Well, I'm out here grinding these turds into fucking meat. I don't know if that makes sense.
Oh, it's wild. Oh, it's wild. He's got a sense of humor. The whole.
Yeah.
While telling you the truth. Yeah.
Yeah, he does, and that's the beauty of him. That's one reason why I like his channel is, not only does he keep up to date on what's going on in the military and stuff like that, and that's kind of a subject that is close to my heart, but it's like he does it with a bit of a sense of humor and levity when called for, but he gets serious when it's called for. And that's the thing about drill sergeants is yes, they can be serious, but they're not always serious. There are times when drill sergeants do tone it down and are like, look, guys, we're here busting your balls, but it's for a reason. And here's the reason.
I was going to say, they don't hate you. They just trying to get the best version that you can be in difficulty and challenges.
Yeah,
risk here. We can't play.
And
they can't play with.
I remember specifically one time our drill sergeant had our entire platoon in the barracks where we were exercising indoors because one person messed up, and after a sweat session, basically the idea is they call it make it rain, and they exercise you until and they close the door and crank the heat, and you exercise until it gets so humid in there it starts raining, basically essentially dripping water from the ceiling. And once that's done, he opened the door, turned off the heat, and he sat down and he's like, look, there's a reason we're doing this. Because the majority of you, once you leave AIT and get done with your training, you're going straight into a war zone. And you need to be prepared for that. It's not because we're trying to be jerks. It's not because we're trying to be, ridiculous with you. It's because you need to be prepared for what you're about to face.
That's a fact.
And he went through and he's like, who has this MOS? Who has this MOS? And people were raising their hands, and he's like, those of you who have your hand raised are most definitely going over there. He didn't list my MOS, and he asked, what's your MOS? I'm like, 88 Mike. He's like, oh, you're most definitely going over there. And I'm like, I kind of figured, drill sergeant. It's like I was expecting that.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
I mean, and that's the thing is with the way they're shaping it up today, it's just they're not going to be prepared.
going to be very difficult for them situation to even be able to fight against the enemy too.
No, not at all.